Electron transport chain review. Here's water, it's going into the plants, and then from the water it's sent into the cell, and then from the cell it goes into the chloroplast, and from the chloroplast it goes into the thylakoid. And inside the thylakoid it goes to the electron transport chain. In the electron transport chain, here's water, and then it's get broken down into three parts. It's broken down into H plus, O2, and electron. This process is called photolysis. So when water enters the thylakoid, it's get broken down into the three parts, and the process of doing so is called photolysis. Why is it called photolysis? Well, the word lysis means to break, from the word like lysosome, remember that, and then lysis from the other words. You will see the word lice very often later on the other vocab and such. And then the word photo mean light. So basically you're breaking something down by using light. So in this case, water is broken down into three parts by light. So here's water, and then there's light. Light hits the thylakoid, and then the water gets broken down into the small parts, and the process is called photolysis. So now the hydrogen that are inside the thylakoid, it's sent outside into the ATP synthase and creates ATP. And there will be plenty of extra hydrogen floating in the stroma, which is outside of the thylakoid. So then the NADP plus would come in and swoop and take away the H that is floating in the stroma and becomes NADPH. So then some of the H are then sent back into the thylakoid space, and in order to do that, the electron must move through the membranes to create a voltage which allows the H to get dragged back into the space, and that process repeats, and then H is sent out to create ATP. Now, in order for the electron to move across the membrane, there must be something that pushes it. Well, the same thing that broke up water into smaller pieces is also light, which is light is used to power the electron, and then the electron, when it gets hit by light, it's jumped from protein to protein, and that's how the electron moves, because of light. So remember, there's also water gets broken down into three parts. Well, then there's also oxygen. What happens to oxygen? Oxygen is removed as a waste product. In other words, plant doesn't use oxygen. It uses carbon dioxide, but it doesn't use oxygen. So it's considered as a waste product. I mean, it's kind of like plants going to the restroom. It's releasing it as a waste product. So here's plant, it takes in water, and then what happens to the water? Water gets broken down into three parts, H, and then the oxygen and the electron. Well, the other things, the H and the electrons are being used, but the oxygen is then released as waste. So that's for us, we absorb the oxygen and then we release carbon dioxide as waste. So it's a cycle for both us and plant. We share in this world and we help each other out. Now let's do a quick review. Okay, so first the H2O water enters, and then it's through the process of photolysis, which uses light to break down water into smaller parts, which is the H, the O2, and the electron. The O2 leaves as a waste product, while the H and the electron is used in the ETC. Okay, now the H is being used because it's sent through the ATP synthase, which is the protein anchor on the membrane, which shoots out and then it produces ATP. The process of producing ATP in here is called oxidative phosphorylation. We'll learn more about that later. And then the H that is extra in the stroma, it pairs up with the NADP plus, and then they becomes NADPH. Then also the light hits the electron, and then this allows the electron to jump between protein. And when the electrons are jumping between protein, creates a voltage gradient which drags in the H, pumps the H in, and then the cycle repeats. And then the electron at the very end, the electron joins NADP plus and H plus to create NADPH. So electron and H plus are both used in the process. Oxygen is not used. Oxygen is released as a waste product. Okay, electron transport chain, it happens in the thylakoid. two processes are involved. One process is called photolysis, which breaks down water, and the other process is called oxidative phosphorylation, which is the creation of ATP. The final product, two of it, one is ATP and the other one is NADPH. Both of them are going to go to the second step, which in photosynthesis, it happens in the stroma called the Calvin cycle. The waste product is oxygen, which is released by the plant because plant doesn't use oxygen. So now this is the end of the very first step of photosynthesis, and then we're going to head on over to the second step later on. Light bulbs. How many doctors does it take to change a light bulb? Well, that depends on whether it has health insurance or not. So, are you a nice person?